Hello and welcome to another Boosted Films informative video. Today we're going to take a look at the differences between Evo 8 and Evo 9 turbos. And what we have here today are two Evo 8 turbos here and our Evo 9 turbo here. So what's the quickest way to tell if you have an Evo 8 or an Evo 9 turbo? What you need to do is take a look at the numbers printed on the compressor housing here. The middle row is what you want to look at. It's always going to start with TD05HR, and then it gets a little different after that depending on what turbo you have. This turbo is an Evo 8 turbo, and we know for a fact that it's an Evo 8 turbo because it ends in 9.8T. If your turbo ends in a 9.8T, you know it's from a 2003 or a 2004 Evo 8. Now on the other hand, if your turbo ends in a 10.5T, that means it could be an Evo 8 or an Evo 9 turbo. And basically, you just got to look at the first letter right before that 10.5T, right before that dash. If you see a C, that means it's an Evo 9 turbo. If you don't, that means it's an Evo 8.5 turbo, as they like to call it, from a 2005 Evo 8. This is the compressor side, also known as the cold side. The reason it's the cold side is because cold air is pumped through this part of the turbo and goes out into your intercooler and then into your engine. All the Evo 8 turbos have the same size cold side. These are the same size, to the best of my knowledge, but the reason people would probably think they're different is because they have the different sizes stamped on them. So the 9.8T and the 10.5T obviously mean they're different, but what this number actually refers to is the size of the hot side. And when people are talking about the hot side of a turbo, they're referring to the side that the hot exhaust air is flowing through. So you can see two sides of this turbo. This is the hot side. This is the cold side. So even though the stamp markings are on the cold side, the numbers here are referring to the size of the hot side. So it's a little bit confusing. So these sides are pretty much the same. This J-pipe here, as they call it, is exactly the same between these two turbos. Wastegate actuators the same. Lines, oil and coolant lines, all the same. So what's different between these two? The hot side. So what are we looking at? Well, this is the wastegate flap door, and basically what it does is it releases excess airflow so your turbo doesn't overspool. This wastegate flapper door is the easiest way to tell the 9.8 from the 10.5s. Because the 9.8s have almost what looks like two smaller circles working as the wastegate flapper door here. And the 10.5 wastegate flapper door is just one big flapper. And another thing I noticed between the 9.8 and the 10.5 is on the 9.8 it doesn't seem quite as cleaned up. Really, they left more weight in. This isn't cut out on the 9.8, and then on the 10.5 here, this is actually cut out, and this side isn't. I'm actually not sure if they're all this way, but this 9.8 I have versus this 10.5, you can see the difference there. This is a lot longer, but you can see how much this long flat area is right on this 10.5 compared to the 9.8. The 9.8 is really short. This is probably only less than an inch, and this one's closer to 2 inches long. So now we'll take a look and compare the cold side of an Evo 8 turbo versus an Evo 9 turbo. The compressor housing on an Evo 9 is quite a bit larger than an Evo 8. Just with a quick eyeball test with a ruler, this Evo 9 turbo stretches about 7 inches total, whereas this Evo 8 turbo goes about 6 inches wide. So there's quite a difference in size between the compressor side of the Evo 8 and Evo 9 turbos. So basically, the 10.5 hot side, this is a 10.5 hot side, this is a 9.8. The 10.5 hot side is the same regardless of whether or not it's on an Evo 8 or an Evo 9. So this hot side, even though it's an Evo 8 turbo, the Evo 8.5 turbo as we like to call it, this hot side is actually the same as you would find on an Evo 9 turbo. A couple things to note about this 9.8T Evo 8 turbo and this 10.5T Evo 8 turbo. Everything that connects to it is pretty much exactly the same. So you should be able to interchange the J-pipe, the wastegate actuator, the lines, and all that stuff between these two. However, if you're getting an Evo 9, you want to make sure you get the Evo 9 J-pipe and the Evo 9 oil and coolant lines. So since I have everything here, I figure I could also go over the basics of all the components that you're going to see on a turbo setup for an Evo 8. First, this is what they call the O2 housing, and they call it that because your oxygen sensor screws in right here in this hole, and then this bolts onto your turbo and directs exhaust gases down, and then this is where the downpipe would connect for your exhaust. So this is a stock O2 housing. This is the wastegate actuator, and basically a vacuum line runs to the wastegate actuator so it knows when it should open and release. This line right here, kind of hidden, facing down, is your oil return line. The oil feed line, on the other hand, is up here. This is where the oil enters the turbo, so it goes in to the center section of the turbo here, and the oil returns out through this pipe and goes into your oil pan. The other two lines that are connected to this housing would be the coolant lines. Same story here. One coolant line feeds coolant in, the other feeds coolant out. And this is your J-pipe. This black piece is what they refer to as the J-pipe, and that's where it connects to the cold side of the turbo and directs air out into your intercooler piping, which then goes into your intake manifold. And this is our exhaust manifold. So that kind of breaks down all the components. One other thing that I want to touch on quickly is adjusting the preload of your wastegate actuator. Basically, if you are swapping a turbo, you want to make sure that you have a little bit of pressure already on this wastegate actuator here to keep it closed. If you can just slide this arm on without any pressure, it's not set right. What you're going to want to do is grab pliers or something to pull this out to reconnect it. And that way you know there's some tension basically on this wastegate actuator arm. You don't want to just screw this out and then slide it on with no pressure on it. Just in case you're watching this video because you want to do a turbo swap, if you're doing a turbo swap yourself, you got to make sure you adjust the preload on this wastegate actuator arm. And that's all I have for this Boosted Films informative video. As always, thanks for watching, and if you have any comments or questions, please add them to the comment section. Let me know if you think I did something wrong or could have did something better, and I will always update and try to improve my processes. And stay tuned for hopefully some more Boosted Films informative videos. We got a Project Evo in the garage that needs quite a bit of work, so hopefully we will be documenting that as we go. And if you are interested in helping out, if you want to help get us parts or you want to sponsor part of this build, please reach out to Paul at Boosted Films. Send me a direct message on Facebook or YouTube, or shoot me an email. As always, thanks for watching.